Prepare to have your world turned upside down with undeniable proof that all cryptocurrencies are getting wrecked in 2023. Once thriving cryptocurrencies are now reduced to mere shadows of their former glory, especially altcoins. It's a turbulent time for the digital currency market, and we have charts to back it up. Benjamin Cowan will explain why everyone is getting wrecked and why the crypto markets are falling apart in 2023. And I promise the reason, it's not what you think.
We've been talking a lot about Bitcoin and sort of the expectations for 2023. And as we've discussed before, the general expectation for the year is that both the bulls and the bears get sufficiently wrecked. We've talked a lot about whether Bitcoin is more so emulating what occurred in 2019 or what occurred in 2020, right? And we have speculated, dubiously of course, that it looks to be more similar to 2019 than 2020, right? So what's going on in 2023 looks more similar to what's going on over here than what happened over here. Now, there's actually quite a few reasons for that, but one of the main reasons is understanding the liquidity side of things, right? Is liquidity coming into the cryptoverse or is it leaving the cryptoverse? And one way that we can better understand that is to simply look at the altcoin market. Now, if Bitcoin is in a position at a given point in time where it's above its bull market support band, but the altcoin market, total 3, is not, right? If it's not, then that would suggest, as I've said for months, right, that the reason that Bitcoin has gone up is not necessarily because of new money coming into the space, right? It's more so an artifact of liquidity flowing from the altcoin market to Bitcoin, right? To Metaverse that is not going to be subject to the same regulatory actions as the altcoin market in general. And so by understanding that aspect of it, we have speculated for quite some time that total 3 was suggesting that it was more similar to 2019 than 2020. Remember, in 2019, Bitcoin did not fall below its 20-week SMA until late September. But we had a clue that that was going to happen from the altcoin market, even in 2019, right? If you go take a look at the altcoin market fell below its 20-week SMA in July. So it gave the warning signs back then too, right? It said, hey, Bitcoin, the rally was mostly fueled by altcoin conversions to Bitcoin, nothing more, nothing less. Now, I'm not saying there aren't any other narratives out there that would have, potentially gone along with the price rally, but the point is that the main money that went into Bitcoin was arguably from the altcoin market. And because of that, once the altcoin market was bled dry sufficiently, where people put all their money into meme coin scams and whatnot, what happened, right? Bitcoin rolled over and it crushed the altcoin market.
And if this is not enough proof yet, Ben will give a few examples of what happened and what will happen now.
Why? Because liquidity from the altcoin market was no longer there. Now, there are a lot of examples where, if you were holding your altcoin, maybe you wouldn't have sold it. But there's probably a lot of people, and I hope I'm not speaking directly to anyone on this channel when I say this, but there's a lot of people that probably sent their altcoins out to convert them to meme coins during that rally we had a couple months ago in the meme coin market. And we warned back then that these are all scams, right? They're just scams. They're designed to suck out liquidity, as much liquidity as they can from the market, okay? So what happens is people that would have held their altcoins come hell or high water, what happens? They convert it to the meme coin because they want to try to get more of that altcoin, but they end up losing their money in the altcoin or in the meme coin market, and therefore they no longer have their altcoin anymore. For risk assets like crypto, liquidity is everything. So if you take away liquidity, then people aren't going to really want to join the cryptoverse. you don't want to join something that is very illiquid. So I would prefer to see more liquidity rather than less liquidity. All right. So Total 3 warned us in 2019 that Bitcoin would eventually not hold the line. Here, once again, we speculated, right, that we would not hold the line based on what Total 3 was doing, and at least so far, that appears to be the case. Now, of course, things can change, but right now, you will see that last week Bitcoin closed below its 20-week. It opened up this week right at the 21-week EMA, and now it's currently just below it. So there are some warning signs, right? And we talked about how Total 3 was in fact sending those warning signs, having dumped below the 20-week SMA at the beginning of May, right? Now, I want to toggle through 4 different charts here, and I want you to see what's going on. This is Bitcoin, okay? Now look at Total, and then Total 2, and then Total 3, okay? Total 1, or sorry, Total, this is everything. Total 2, not including Bitcoin. Total 3, not including Bitcoin and Ethereum. What's holding the market up? It's not the altcoin market, right? It's Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been holding the market up. And we've talked about this before. I mean, Bitcoin would have to drop another 22% just to get to its March low. Almost 23% just to get to its March low. Where is Total 3 in all this? It took out the March low last week. So what we said before, what happens if Bitcoin comes back down here? Where does that leave Total 3? Nowhere good.
So if the crypto markets are in significant danger, the worst thing people can do right now, according to Ben, is to put their money into altcoins. And it makes sense after you hear his explanation.
That the altcoin market is too risky during this phase of the market cycle. Now, where I often face the most amount of criticism is that people will say, well, you should, they'll argue that buying altcoins when they're down this much is a good idea. But the problem is that they would have told you the same thing 2 months ago as well. And they would have told you the same thing 6 months ago, and 9 months ago, and 12 months ago, and 15 months ago, and 18 months ago, right? They are only ever going to tell you the same thing, okay? So this is a reality of the cryptoverse, okay? Don't get mad at me. It's just what it is, right? So please understand that, that is where we are, right? That's just where we are. And I don't think you can, fundamentally it makes sense because so many cryptocurrencies pop up that are not, have no utility at all. They're just forks of other projects. Spin up a WordPress site and call it the best thing since sliced bread, and people will buy it until interest rates go up and until money's not cheap anymore. And then when things start to hit the fan, what gets hit the hardest? It's the altcoin market. And then what gets hit? Ethereum. And then what gets hit? Bitcoin.
But a lot of people are still saying that narrative drives prices and fundamentals are more important than just the market moves. So if Gary Gensler and his friends don't screw things up, we're still going up, and these predictions make no sense. Please hear carefully what Ben has to say.
Price does not follow narrative. Narrative follows price, okay? So if Bitcoin were to go down tomorrow by $1,000, what'll happen? People will say, woe is me, the SEC keeps coming after us. If it goes up by $1,000, we'll talk about BlackRock, okay? So again, be careful with the narratives. All that really matters is liquidity, okay? The narratives are sort of just a byproduct of looser monetary policy. So remember, Total 3 told us that Bitcoin was exhibiting some weakness. Now, I will say, look guys, we can't get ahead of ourselves. Like, there's no guarantee that Bitcoin collapses back down, although I would say that there's a good likelihood, a strong likelihood that sometime this year we'd come back into the lower part of this range. I think that's a highly likely outcome eventually. Doesn't mean that it has to happen tomorrow or next week or next month, but I do think that is a likely outcome, and that what's going on right now is that people are so fearful that they're going to miss out on this type of a move. because that's what happened back in March, right? So they're so fearful of it. So every new narrative comes in, they YOLO in, and then Bitcoin just continues to slowly bleed. We're below the bull market support band. Furthermore, one of the things we talked about with regards to, comparing this cycle to 2019 is, or this year to this move to 2019 is the 100-day. Remember, in 2019, once we had multiple daily closes below the 100-day SMA, that was a warning. And we had sort of some closes below it, we got back above it, and then we just slowly faded it, and then we had sort of a bigger move to the downside. So if you go look at it today, it was a very similar type of thing, right? We came below it, got back above, and now we're just sort of slowly fading it down. And there is a risk that we're in this phase, right? I mean, like, look, there's a risk here that we're in this phase right here and that this candle hasn't happened yet. Right? Where we're in the phase where we're sort of just slowly fading, but the big drop could still be ahead of us, where it maybe goes back down closer to $20,000 or something. There's a risk of that happening, right? I mean, there simply is. I mean, we lived through it in 2019. People say it can't happen, but it can happen, and you need to be prepared for it. And guess what? If Bitcoin drops, where does that leave the altcoin market? Okay, where does it leave it? And as I said earlier, right, the whole narrative stuff with the altcoin market, it's somewhat exhausting to me because we talked about it for the last year and a half, right, that they're too risky. What are you gonna do? Every new low, people just come out and say buy the dip because they're good value, and then people believe them, and then you fast forward a few months and most of them are just putting in new lows. Please be careful. I don't say it from from a pedestal. I say it from, that was me in the past. I used to think like that, right? And I saw these altcoins just go down and down and down and down, and most of them never recovered.
Crazy analysis by Ben. Please take care and don't forget to check his channel and give some support. But if you are not fully convinced yet that this is the most likely scenario for 2023, watch this video now.